Number 25. When we have a holiday in prospect, we make plans in advance in order that we may know where to go and what to do and get everything ready for it. If we don't do this, the greater part of the holiday is wasted. The same holds true of our spare time. It is a good thing to make a list of books which you want to read at your convenience. You may choose books for yourself or have your friends recommend them. At any rate, make it a rule to have a few books at hand which you are anxious to read. I think those who are not in the habit of doing so lose the pleasure of reading when the spare evening or the long railway journey or the rainy day comes. The habit of planning is no less essential to the finding of real pleasure in reading than it is to the other pleasures of life, such as traveling.
Number 26. Why don't the Japanese do away with this old custom of seeing people off? To be frank, it is a great waste of time and energy, and is meaningless. Seeing off, like photography, is one of Japan's national sports. I have come to the conclusion that the Japanese are lacking in imagination and unable to put themselves into the other person's shoes. People go to seeing offs as to a party or a show, where the person being seen off is subject to endless snapshotting and present-giving. Especially when a person is traveling by air and luggage is limited to a certain weight, it is foolish to force presents on the helpless traveler who is obliged to pay extra for the excess luggage. Actually, I can't help feeling for the person being seen off, who must spend his last precious hours bowing and smiling, being photographed over and over again, and saying meaningless things. Leave-taking should be a solemn moment shared, if at all, with only one's dearest friends.
Number 27. The capacity to put up with a more or less monotonous life is one which should be acquired in childhood. Modern parents are to blame in this respect. They provide their children with too much passive enjoyment, such as shows and good things to eat, and they do not realize the importance to a child of having one day like another except for rare occasions. The pleasure of childhood should, in the main, be such as the children themselves think of and find out from their environment by virtue of some effort and inventiveness. Pleasures which are exciting and at the same time need no physical effort, such as the theater, should rarely be given. The excitement is in the nature of a drug, and more drug will come to be required, and lack of physical movement during the excitement is contrary to instinct. A child develops best when, like a young plant, he or she is quiet and calm in the same place. Too much travel, too much variety of impressions do not do good to the young. They grow up to be incapable of putting up with monotony. I do not mean that monotony has any merits of its own. I mean only that certain good things are not possible except where there is a certain degree of monotony.
Number 28. On the morning of my 14th birthday, my father held me by the shoulders, looked me in the eye, and said, "Now that you are 14, I have to tell you a secret about our family. The day we reach the age of 14 is a sad day for men in our family." He picked up his cup of coffee, walked to the window, and looked over the garden. When he turned away from the window, he looked pale as if he had something terrible to tell. "Sit down," he said. "If you are not ready for it, we can put it off." "Let me hear it now, whatever it may be," I said. I wish I were as brave as when my father told me. "Told you what?" My father didn't answer. He moved to the corner of the room, and then he spoke. "It is not until the men of our family reach the age of 14 that they are thought old enough to know a terrible fact." "Oh God," I said to myself, "we suffer from some unknown illness, or we belong to some criminal family." "Tell me," I said in a low voice. "If only I could keep this secret from you," he said. "Tell me," I cried, my control at an end. For a long moment my father waited. Then he said at last, There is no Santa Claus.
Number 29. Some plays are so successful that they run for years on end. In a sense, this is unfortunate for the actors who are required to go on repeating the same lines day after day. It is thought that they learn their lines by heart and never forget them. Yet, this is not always the case. A famous actor once played the part of a nobleman who had been put in prison for 20 years. In the last scene, a jailer was expected to appear and hand a letter to the nobleman. As the nobleman was expected to read the letter, he always insisted that it should be written down in full. One night the jailer played a joke on him to find out if his fellow actor had managed to learn the contents of the letter by heart yet. The curtain went up on the final scene of the play, and the jailer handed the letter to him. But the letter was not written out this time. It was a blank sheet of paper. The fellow actor stared at the blank sheet of paper for a few seconds and said, "The light is dim. Read the paper for me." And he handed the sheet of paper to the jailer. Finding that he could not remember a word of the letter either, the jailer said, "The light is indeed dim. I must get my glasses." And he hurried off the stage. To the nobleman's amusement, the jailer returned soon with a pair of glasses and the usual copy of the letter.
Number 30. Spiders are our friends because they destroy so many insects, and the insects include some of the greatest enemies of the human race. Insects would make it impossible for us to live on the earth if it were not for the protection of insect-eating spiders. We owe a lot to the birds and beasts that eat insects, but all of them put together kill a bit of the number destroyed by spiders. Moreover, unlike some of the other insect eaters, spiders do no harm whatever to us. Spiders are not insects or not even related to them. One can tell the difference almost at a glance, for a spider always has 8 legs, and an insect never more than 6. How many spiders are keen on this work on our behalf? One expert on spiders made an estimate of the number of spiders in a grass field in the south of England, and he came to the conclusion that there were not less than 2,250,000 in 1 acre. That is something like no less than 6 million spiders of different kinds on a football field. Spiders are always busy killing insects. We can do nothing but make a wild guess at how many they kill, but they are, as it were, big eaters, and not content with only 3 meals a day.